Recently, I had a buyer choosing between 1.6 million brand new EC versus a 2 million condo. Most people would assume that choosing the EC is the obvious choice. But after running through the numbers, going for the condo will actually save them $245,000. So in today's video, I will be sharing with you on why did they go for the condo instead of the EC. First of all, as we all know, going for a property, most of us would require a loan. Then again, when we look in terms of loans, there are actually two parts to the loans. If we are going for brand new EC, it will be based on MSR and their loan would be 880,000. If they were to go for a condo, it will be based on TDSR, where their loan will be 1.6 million. So just a background information on both of them. The husband age is 40, drawing an income of 8,500, and the wife age is 38, drawing income of 7,000, which is just right for an EC choice. Together, both of them actually bought a BTO together previously. And the moment when they mentioned to me, Colleen, we are exploring going for an EC. So just to share with you, okay, under HDB website, if you realize that as long as you have gone for a BTO before, or if you even go for a resale flat but taking a first-time grant, you will be subjected to paying on the resale levy the moment you go for a brand new EC or another BTO flat. And because both of their first flat was a 4-room BTO, they would actually need to pay a resale levy of $40,000. This would be in cash. Now next, this is Reveal, which is an EC upcoming right now in Tampines West. And of course, when we look at such prices, EC being EC is in a way a subsidized price. Then again, 3-bedroom premium starting from 1.588, 3-bedroom premium plus study 1.663. To them, their main focus is having 3 bedrooms. That would be their family requirement because they have 2 children. So they hope for 1 room each. Okay, and when we look about 1.588, I definitely will not be quoting them at 1.58. Why? Because again, if we are looking at how the site plan works for Revel, basically for the 3-bedroom, the smallest unit, they are actually on these locations that is facing the road. There's also this one with internal facing, and of course, the back part, which is also having a very nice unblocked view together with the internal facilities. So when I shared with them about the price point perspective, I did not quote them as 1.588. Instead, I actually shared with them that how about maybe we use a 1.6 million to do a rough calculation. And 1.66 might potentially give them an option of going for a higher level on these that would be the road facing, or in fact some internal facing, potentially at a slightly lower level. For that, we do not know because Reveal is still a brand new launch. Hence, we do not have the individual unit price point. So now I would like to do this live with all of you. So on the assumption, if both of them were to go for an EC, so this would be the property at 1.6 million. The maximum loan that MAS and the banks allow would be 75%, of which the balance 25% would be the down payment, all right? And 5% must be in cash. 20% we can use cash and or CPF. All right, of course, when we look in terms of property pricing, we also need to factor in 2 other costs involved. First would be the buyer stamp duty. Regardless whether you are Singaporean, PRs, stamp duty is required for all properties in Singapore. Then there's also legal fees. All right, so based on 1.6, I will just change this color. A cash component, we would be looking at 80,000. All right. And next, for the 20%, we will be looking at 320,000. Stamp duty, we'll be looking at 49,600. And of course, legal fees, typically I will just use 3,000 for easier calculation. But most important thing, the key would be this 75%. Remember earlier on the first page, I actually mentioned that because this is going to be an EC, we are not able to use TDSR. Hence, their loan eligible would be 880,000. Of course, when we look at 880,000 in terms of their loan eligibility, however, based on 75%, their required loan is actually at 1.2 million. All right, so let me just bring the calculator out. Based on 1.6 million, okay, times 75%, we'll get 1.2 million. All right, so if you realize over here, there's actually a loan shortfall, okay, of 320,000. All right, so meaning to say, if we were to go for a down payment like this, first we will need to factor the 80,000 cash, 320,000 in terms of cash and or CPF, 320,000 in terms of loan shortfall, legal fees, stamp duty, and last but not least, because this is going to be their second time buying a brand new property, like what I've mentioned, brand new in terms of either going for a brand new BTO or a brand new EC. They would also need to factor in 45K resale levy. Okay, this resale levy is actually based on their first home that they bought as a BTO. So in total, we would be looking at 817,600. This would be in the form of cash and or CPF. All right, so again, this, like what I've mentioned, this is based on a 1.6 million EC. Right, so now let's take a look in terms of a 2 million condo. So same thing, when we look in terms of loan perspective, the maximum loan we'll be looking at is 75%, of which 25% would be the down payment. 5% must be in cash. 20% we would be able to use cash and or CPF. All right, and because it is going to be a 2 million condo, the 75% loan would be 1.5 million. And based on TDSR, their loan in fact can go up to 1.6. Hence, 1.5M is not an issue. So now, again, when we look in terms of the stamp duty and legal fees, The stamp duty will be looking at 69,600. Of course, it will be higher as the property value is higher now. Legal fees, again, estimation on 3,000. So in fact, if today we were to go for a EC, the total down payment with stamp duty, with legal fees, and the resale levy, total would be looking at 817,600, and not forgetting it is also due to the shortfall of the loan. Now let's take a look in the event if we were to go for a 2 million condo. All right, total we'll be looking at 572,600 for the down payment, stamp duty, and legal fees. So in fact, when we look on these two differences, we'll be looking at 245,000 difference in terms of cash and or CPF. Now, of course, some of you may be thinking like, hey, Colleen, so now that you mentioned about this, the down payment is as such. But then again, if we are buying a condo, we are also committing to a higher loan amount. So I understand and I hear your concerns. So let me share with you in terms of the monthly installment. Of course, when we look in terms of this EC, because the loan is also lesser, due to the loan shortfall, we did a higher repayment. Based on the 880,000, with both of them able to do a repayment tenure of 25 years, and assuming if I were to use an interest rate of 1.4%, the monthly installment looking at would be 3,478. And now if we are looking in terms of a condo, going for a 1.5 million installment, again, same thing with a tenure of 25 years and an interest of 1.4%, our monthly installment looking at would be 5,929. Okay, so some of you may be thinking, wow, this is actually a very big jump, because although we don't pay more in the initial, but we repay it through the monthly installment. So then again, there's no fixed rule to say, oh, we must go for an EC or we must go for a condo. So it really depends on what would be your family goals like, as well as the priorities. Then again, if we are looking in terms of both of them who are working, they do have a monthly CPF contribution combined of 3,150. So meaning to say they can actually use 3,150 for the monthly repayment over here, and for the monthly repayment for the condo likewise. So now let's break down into what would be their monthly top up every month. So if we are going for, say, a 1.6 million EC, their monthly fork out would be this amount per month. Okay, and if we are going for a 2 million condo, okay, they would be doing a monthly fork out of 2,779 a month. So now remember the 245K that they save. Right? If we were to use it to divide it off for the condo versus when we used to divide off for the EC, this 245K would actually be able to last them for the next 99 months, which is also equivalent to 8.3 years. So then again, if we are looking in terms of a long-term stay, of course, this is something that we need to foresee in the future after going through the 8 years. However, if your intention is just to maybe say stay there for the next 5 years, 6 years, and then do another home switch, you might want to rethink in terms of either going for an EC or would the condo be a better option. But for this instance, after sharing this with my client, they decided to go for the $2 million condo. Right? So if you have any property questions, or if you are at this point thinking between EC or a condo, feel free to reach out to us today. Thank you.